Welcome to the Sound Session, a podcast where we explore the people, ideas, and techniques behind the music production and audio engineering. In this episode, I had a chance to talk with Andy Quiroga, a Colombian producer, recording and mixing engineer, musician, Grammy Award winner, and two-time Grammy Award nominee. The interview was recorded with a video call, so you might notice a few changes in the audio quality. But during our conversation, Andy shares his perspective on what it's real like to work as an audio engineer, from recording, mixing, and mastering techniques to build a career and making a living in the music industry. Let's get into it. Welcome, Andy, and thanks for having us, and thanks for having me actually, and to let me ask you some question about our field and then our career here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I've been doing this like for several years, like 11 years now. It's been a while. It's been a while. So you acquire a little bit of experience. I know I
Yeah.
have a lot of path ahead to learn and to improve like many things. But well, we're in the continuous job of getting better, you know?
Andy Quiroga, who are you today in one sentence? And what do you actually do in music?
So, my name is Andres Felipe Quiroga. People call me Andy.
Yeah.
So, Andy Quiroga. I'm a recording engineer, recording mixing engineer. I graduated like as a sound engineer here in Colombia.
Yeah.
And I started like 5 years ago. And right now, I have my own recording studio named Aeon. I work there my productions. I record other people's music and mix, and that's mostly what I do. Sometimes I master, but that's not like my main job.
Well, what was the moment then when actually music became a job and not a hobby? Or you want to do music and record musicians and have it all?
Well, I think that's a very good question. I was the intern for an audio engineer, Mauricio Cano, recorded Carlos Vives, like De La Provincia, like very incredible hits like from Colombian traditional music. So I worked with him and I realized like, dude, I gotta do this no matter what. So I don't know if there was a moment where when it became like a serious thing. I think it was more like a decision, you know what I mean? It's like a very big and important choice, like what do you want to do? And I said like, man, I want to produce music, I want to do this. And I became like really serious about that. So it was like at the beginning of the end of my career, you know what I mean? I've been through a lot of things before earning my life as an audio engineer and a producer. At the very, very beginning, you got to do other things. The first few years, I taught English classes, like some random thing that has nothing to do with this. I stopped doing that. I was doing both. And in the afternoon, I was working at the studio. And now I only produce and record music, which is cool.
What are you listening for? Three things when you open a track for mixing.
When I open track for mixing, the very first thing I check when I receive a song, I like to check the rough mix. I know it's not like inside the tracks whatsoever, but I usually ask for it because I think it's the vision of the producer and the artist. Like the very first glance, like let me see how you were listening to it.
Okay.
That's one of the very first things I check. Then after that, I would check like groups. Like when you receive a song for mixing, the very first thing I do is organize the song in my template.
Okay.
And then I start like checking like the groups like drums, bass, and see if there's any like obvious problematic situation that needs to be addressed immediately before I start doing the mixing process. Like if something's clipping, if something's like the dynamic range, or if it is well recorded or not. Like that's the very first thing I check. Is just like with few passes of the song, you can notice certain things. Of course, while you do the mixing, you're gonna find other things whatsoever, but that's like the very first thing. And I check the waveform. If I check a waveform and it's cut, that tells me a lot of things from the very beginning, but I tend not to judge that or make something out of it before I listen to it, because sometimes that was intentional due from the production. It's not only okay but necessary conversation and a good communication with the artist. And in this case, if you're mixing for a producer, then to the producer. If you're mixing for an artist, then with the artist. Like sometimes there are different situations now.
Yeah.
So in that case, if it is the first time I'm working with someone, I like to check everything, and I like to check previous things that they've done, so I can kind of understand what they usually do. And if I do believe there is a problem that needs to be fixed, like in a recording that it's like untreatable or something, I usually tell them. For example, if the voice has something that can't be fixed, and and it's very obvious when you're mixing it, because when you mix, you start giving everything that it's proper space and location, right?
Okay.
So if everything's mono, you tend to miss details. But when you start spreading it out and EQing and everything, some things and some minor things, they start come up if the recording is like sometimes not in a very good state or whatever. So
Okay.
I like to like, hey, I'm sorry, this is the problem and I can't fix it. So you get like two options:
Yeah.
or you record it, I work with this, because but I try to be as clear and
Clear.
as transparent as possible, because afterwards that can be like an issue, because they can say like, oh, you left it like that and you didn't say anything.
True.
Well,
True. 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 In that sense, what actually do what actually makes a mix sound truly professional in your opinion?
I think that it is a combination of two things. One is the technical domain, if I may. Like the low end is well treated, the high end is well treated. There is a saying that the very top end and the very low end, well treated, are synonyms of a good mix.
Yeah.
But well, that's one part. The depth and dynamic range and everything, that it's not clipping whatsoever. That would be for me like the very first thing in terms of a technical domain. That it doesn't have like distortions that are like unpleasant, or
Okay.
that it's not hard or muddy. Um, but there is a part that is very, very important that transcends like the technical part, which is like if the mix mm, connects you with the song. As an engineer, if I am not thinking about the mix when I'm listening to a song, that's a perfect mix. When you listen to the music that you love in your headphones whatsoever, you first listen to the song, and you connect with it. It's like a journey. It takes you to a place, tells you a story, like from the beginning to an end, or like whatever. And then at the second and third listen to the song, you're like, wow, this is very nice in the mix.
Yeah.
But if the first thing you notice is like a snare drum that is like very loud, you're like, disconnected from the song from the very beginning. So in many ways, our job is to be invisible because our job is to make the song connect, not us. Nobody listens to a song because of a hi-hat sound or a
Yeah,
drum
true.
sound. So people connect with the music. So I think that that would be like a very important thing. And of course, for this to happen, you have to have a very good technical thing. But this is what no one says.
A heavy turn here because I want to get deeper into like the real person you are actually a part of being an engineer and as a professional. So what was the hardest phase in your career that almost made you quit?
I would say it was not like a moment or a phase. I think is like in my case it's a personal like constant struggle. We are, or me, I am in a situation where I get like good clients. But as soon as we finish what we're doing, then you end up being like, okay, what am I gonna do now? I think more than a phase, it's more like a constant growth, in terms of learning how to charge for your job, trusting your instincts, and having a structured way of working. At the very beginning, when I was working as an audio engineer, I would take it like very long to mix a song. After a while, I realized that it was not affordable, you know, because if you charge for, I don't know, like let's say at the very beginning when you're starting, like I
Yeah.
don't know, 50, 60 euros per case, like to give it like in euros, whatever. And you take, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days to finish it. It's like, dude, that's 20 euros a day, and that's, you cannot live with that. You cannot do it. So at the very beginning, is like, how do I make my decision making faster so I can make my job more affordable? And if I'm going to charge that so I can make it faster, how do I do it so good that I can charge 2 times, 3 times, 4 times that amount? you know and yet I still have to take into account the time. It's like Jason Joshua said used to say, like, Dave Pensado used like his mentor, and one day Dave told Jason, like, how many songs you mix a day? And the guy said, like, no, I'm mixing 20 songs a day, whatever. And I was like, what, dude, the hell's wrong with you?
Still isolate.
Try to make 1 or 2 songs, but do it like so good that people are gonna be like, man, I want to work with that guy. It's a journey. It takes time for you to master those things, and even in that case, you're still gotta be open for new knowledge, because there's always something new. There's always a new technique or a new trick that you can pull out of your sleeve. Like, I do believe that we're in a constant growth. You always gotta be learning. So, like, I don't think it's been like a moment per se that, yeah, I can say like, oh man, you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta keep on going, because it's gonna be hard. Your mixes are gonna suck at the beginning. It's life, the way it works. But as you get better, things are gonna get better. So once teacher of mine, he said, this job is resistance job, for somehow. So you
Yeah,
gotta keep on going. You gotta keep on learning, because it's gonna be hard at the beginning, and you're gonna
exactly.
want to quit several times. So it's not just one time, to answer your question. It's been like several times when I'm, dude, what am I doing? Jesus, did I choose the wrong thing? Or, ah, it's very frustrating. But then good things happen as well, and then you get to mix an album, and the album saves your month and a little bit more, and so.
How do you actually handle the pressure when you're working with like great artists or very tight deadlines as well.
So what I try to do is I try to study as much as I can
Yeah.
all the time, all the time. And when I say study, it's not to sit down and read because that's not the way we study. I gotta sit down and listen carefully to the details of the songs that I really like. So when you're studying a song, you know every inch of the song, you know every little part of the song. You listen to it. It's like in your brain, you just you unfold the mix and you can hear like the vocals, the guitars, the drums, the bass. You can hear everything separated, you know, in your brain.
Yeah.
And when you're starting a song, no, so you have to do that a lot because they are gonna ask for results or very high end results, and you gotta be able to do it. So that's number one. And number two, when studying, is like testing things, you know, like let's try this. Why don't I change this microphone or this combination? Because that's something that I've come across very often, that people go to the studio and they've seen YouTube before and they say like, oh, do you have the C800, the Sony C800 with the NIF 1073 and a CLA 4, I don't know, I know CL1B, you know, the two pack.
Yes.
For dude, I may not have that, but I do have this, and they don't know, you know. So when it comes to that, it's very funny because um, what I try to do is again try different combinations, study those combinations, see which one work, see which ones don't work, or uh, change them for different vocals, the different singers. You know, so in the
Yes.
studio I have um, 4 options for vocal recording, and I when I have the time, you know, I try to take my time to listen to every microphone and then change them to different preamps and whatsoever. So when a certain big artist comes and I listen to their voice or I listen to what they're looking, so I don't improvise when they come. So not to be able to not improvise when a great artist comes, you need to study a lot because they do when you show them like, no, trust me, this is gonna work, and you show them your path, and when they listen, they're like, wow, I really like the way it sounds. And when I'm mixing whatsoever with tight deadlines, I try to take my time, and I'm gonna expand on that is if I have to mix a song in 2 days, what I'm gonna do is if I don't have an assistant, I will organize my mix template. A few listening parts, you know, I listen to some parts, I check if everything is well labeled and in the right track whatsoever. That's the very first thing I do. And then I take my time to start with fresh ears because I believe that's the most important thing. When you're mixing and you're mixing tired, you take decisions that at the end when you listen to it again you're like, oof, I don't like it. And sometimes coming back, sometimes it's hard because you've done a lot of processing,
It is
and
true.
then when you come back you're like, oof, it's like it's like a train that is going fast and you need to stop it to do it again. It's like hard to stop it. It's like you need to tame it. So what I try to do is like, okay, no, I'm gonna build this from the ground up slowly, so I can take better decisions and I'm fresh. And I try to take like pauses, you know. It's kind of opposite to what it might logically be, or like the like if I have a tight deadline, I have to do it very fast. No, if I have a
Mm-hmm.
tight deadline, I need to take it slow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can meet the deadline, but they're gonna be like, "Hey, dude, this is not what we're looking for." And in this job, you gotta pay attention to those details a lot, because at the end of the day, if you don't deliver a very good job, a very good result, they're just not gonna call you. It's
True.
not like you have a steady job that you can say like, no, this one was bad, but he's good, so he can try again. No, I think in our job we don't have that luxury. Or we do it well, or we do it well. There's no other way, man.
Yeah, I feel you. I
Yeah.
feel you. So, saying that, is there a moment actually in your life that you say, "Damn, I really improved my mixing techniques," and suddenly you just discover how was it? Like, what was that point?
In several occasions, I would say, and I'm very grateful for that. Uh, if you're lucky enough to have a mentor,
Yeah,
um, you're gonna find those moments very often,
true.
because a mentor usually takes the time and sees your potential and says like, you can do it better. You're having these, but you can do it better. And then you start like, wow, I understand what he's saying, you know. I have had two mentors in my career. Like the very first one, Kike Purizaga, which is the producer I won the Grammy with. While we were producing, well, he was producing, and I was assisting him, and I was recording the musicians. He was being very strict, it's like, and giving me like a lot of feedback, like that's not the way I want it to sound. I want it to sound like this. You gotta figure it out. So he made me study a lot.
Cool.
It was like, I don't know if you've seen like Whiplash, the movie. It
Yeah,
was like,
this kind
not
of
much.
strict mentor.
Yeah, yeah. It's like old school learning style, because nowadays it's kind of different, but uh, he is like that. And he made me, in a very good way, he made me study a lot. Like I said before, if you don't do it well, they're going to call somebody else. It's just simple as that, because you don't have a contract. They hire you like a freelance. As a freelance, they hire you for hours. So if they don't like you, they're just not going to call you, and that's pretty much it.
So you would say that feedback, actually, constant feedback is very important.
But feedback is not good if you're not taking it seriously. Because I can give people feedback, but if they are not going to study, they're not going to grow. So so you have to commit to it. That's more or less what I was saying before, with when I told you that it's a constant struggle, or strive to learn, to get better, constantly. You got to get better. More responsibilities when it comes to the project. So one of the other mentors, he's an incredible music producer, and he writes and composes music for films.
Mm.
So the last project I worked on, it was a movie that I had to mix all the music for the movie. And one thing is listening to it in your studio, and one other thing is listening to it in cinema. You know, so um, you know when you're starting and you mix a song, and yeah, it's like the low end is not very well whatsoever. At the end of the day, the people are going to be listening to it. Some people are going to be listening to it in a very good system, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be the common thing. But when the common thing is people going to the cinema to listen to what you're doing, the mindset kind of changes, because you have to have all the range has to be. well treated the whole range, because subwoofers, like the audio, like surround and all the things, if you don't have it well in the cinema, you're gonna notice the very first thing. It's like, whoa, that, yeah, that sounds funny. That combined with like a lot of pressure, let's say, because it's a very important client of mine, and a very high end client, like, or you do
Okay.
it right or you do it right, otherwise they're gonna call somebody else. So while doing it, you realize, like, changing few things of your templates, of your things, you start improving, because someone else is there saying, like, I don't like this, and they are very specific. Like, for example, he was saying, like, it sounds a little bit metallic at the end, like the very top end. There's something adding that, and I don't know what it is. You gotta find it out. And that phrase kept me like 2 days without sleeping, man. I was like, dude, what is it? I don't understand. I was looking for a plugin that was adding that, because if I bypassed every plugin, it sounded good. I mean, it sounded without that little metallic harshness, like at the very top end. And I was like, dude, there's something adding it, but I don't know what. And then I started removing, things. Okay, this one, no, this is not the one. This one, no, this is not the one. Blah, 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 blah. When I got to the end, it was the limiter.
Okay.
And the very first thing that I thought was like, why is it the limiter? Why is it changing? So I had to start reading papers and blah, 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 blah about why digital limiting, and why limiting in any process at the end of the day, even if it is EQing, if it is compression, they have an effect on the frequency response.
Okay.
It might be light, but there is. So I started looking for like a better limiter, because I needed a limiter. So in that search, I found a very good one that I stick with, because it was smooth at the end, at the top end. But then I was like you. I was like, but
Yeah.
why?
Yeah,
If
man. It's
limit,
kind
if
of
I'm, why is it changing my top end? And I stopped assuming that certain things shouldn't change something. I stopped assuming it, because technically speaking, it shouldn't. Like, not technically, but theoretically speaking. Because
yes.
you're cutting that, and I mean, you're reducing that. That's it. But I started, like, when I did the research, like, different algorithms for that. They might change these because of like harmonic digital distortion of, I don't know, blah 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 blah. And disturbing, because you will never have something flat technically. It
Yeah.
changes your audio, for better or for worse. You have to have a good ear for that. And when I started doing it, I tested like what to like 5 different limiters, you know, and I was like, okay, this limiter is good for this. Now this limiter is good for that. So it's like when I'm EQing. So when I'm EQing, especially like in the digital domain, some
Yeah.
plugin they're gonna have like a nicer top end, and some other ones are gonna be better at the low end. An EQ is an EQ, but not every EQ is the same. So that's actually one thing that it's in one of the questions that you asked
Yeah. How do you
me.
know
And
actually when is a mix finish? When is
yeah,
like
well,
the top?
in my personal opinion, I believe that I tend to abandon mixes. and to give the responsibility to someone else. In this case, my client, because when you're mixing and you're paying too much attention and you're listening to it over and over and over again, you start finding things. So what I try to do is like I sit down when my mix is already organized, like my template and everything, and I stand up when I finish, with the proper times between takes, it's like
I
I
feel
don't do it
you.
like I start, then I have a coffee, I go out, and it's like sit, take a breath, and then I just continue whatever. But that first one, is the one that I deliver, and then I start doing all the fixing sessions. Like okay, I like this, but maybe let's try a little bit less high end on the voice whatsoever. And then those things, in my opinion, are a little bit more technical, but I'm not mixing, and it's like my mindset is not like, oh, then I have to. No, that choice was already made. I already did it. Yeah, because you can stick to it eternally,
Yeah.
And no, no, it's like the guy. He was the guy who makes lithium, if I'm not mistaken. He once said, "You listen to the song, and for you, it's mixed properly. But I listen to it, and I always say like." Oh, I should have done this to the snare drum. Whatever, man. It's like,
But how do you actually make a living as an engineer nowadays?
well, mm, I started like making more things, like doing more things, not just recording. Production is a very like round and complete thing in my field, in this field, because I record, I mix, and I produce. You know, so for some people I only record, for some people I only mix, and for some people I do the three things, you know? So I expanded my field, let's call it that way. And that has helped me to make a living, because you started to realize when you start producing, you realize how production works, like all the industrial part of the job works, because when you record, it's because you're already done with the pre-production, and you already know what you want.
Yeah.
So there are gonna be as many clients as there are songs to be finished. So if there are not people making songs or whatever, people are not gonna record. So it's like waves, and they are not constant. So some projects are in the phase of recording, and some other projects are in the phase of mixing. And in my personal opinion, you got to take them all. Sometimes, um, sometimes, and I have some colleagues and friends that they make a living out of one of those things.
Yes.
So there is a friend of mine that he mixes, and he mixes every day. It's like he lives out of mixing, but he doesn't record, he doesn't music, and in my case, I love production, I love making music more than anything else. So if I just mixed, I would be, oh, like, dude, there's
Of
something
course.
missing in my
Yeah.
life. I mean, even if it is in the field, if I'm not making music, I'm me, Andy. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's
Feel
like
you. Feel
big
you totally.
up. I'm constantly looking for clients to make music, to produce music, and that has helped me a lot. And I don't know, but when I was at the university, nobody told me, or nobody taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
Is to be able to sell yourself, to become your own business, your own enterprise.
Yeah, that
You
was
know,
actually the next question, that if you were a student, what would you focus in?
that would be one thing. But I think that's given to you through experience. Here in Colombia, not every teacher has the experience of the real world. Like they've studied a lot, but out there in the field, things might not be the same, you know, and you find people that didn't study with that sound
Like incredible
incredibly
skills, yeah.
exactly, and they never stepped inside a university ever, but
Yeah.
they sound and you, whoa, man, what's going on, man? So when you start to understand that, you realize like, oh, okay, so why, as a businessman, as a business, me as a brand, what am I giving to my clients that only I give, or what is my differential so that my clients call me instead of someone else? That part, it sounds cliche whatsoever, but is as important as it gets. It's very important. And I would try to focus on, okay, on understanding what my skills are and understanding how to make it out there, in the real world.
Okay.
Like, because when I finished my university, I was, I was, I don't know, somehow delusional. I was like, I thought I was gonna get a job at a studio, and that was gonna be it. I was gonna be working in a recording studio, and I was gonna be happy for the rest of my days. And yeah, well, that's not the way it works.
I feel you, man. Like the field is different. Yeah,
So
out there is another story for sure. Then you have to like
yeah,
be prepared.
yeah, you have to be prepared, like in that, like that specific thing. I think it is important because when you step outside the universe in whatsoever, if you don't know how to charge for your job, or how to, to value what you're doing, then that's going to be an issue, that it's going to cost you money and time. And if you have that sorted out before you enter like the real world,
Yes.
well, you're two steps ahead, because you can start focusing on getting better whatsoever, blah 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 blah, while you get better at those human skills that they are as important.
Yeah, thanks for the advice. I mean, for all of us and for the people who actually are listening to like finish this and let's tell us one mistake to avoid as an engineer and one habit that actually improve your sound.
One habit that I think improved my sound is listening in three or four different references, like my monitors and two pair of headphones that I have. I have Audio Technica MTH or MHD 50X, or I don't know the reference that much. And I have Bayer Dynamic M990 Pro. Incredibly different. So the first one's the Audio Technica. They're gonna tell me if something's harsh or not instantly. So I started like recognizing things on my headphones. Like, this is good. If this sounds good here, it's gonna sound good everywhere else. The same with the Bayer Dynamic. The same with my
Monitors.
monitors. So I try to check every thing that I'm doing. Like if I'm mixing, I try to check them on those three references, and that has improved my sound a lot, because since they are very different, you can take advantage of every difference.
True.
That's one thing. And I mean, mixing when you have rested, not being tired, like taking the time to do the mix or do that, it's important.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be probably double job at the end. So
that so being aware of that would be a mistake that I would try to avoid. Like, no. One other thing is, I try to do that. Some people say they don't, and some people don't do that. But reference track. Sometimes I have a reference track of my own, you know, when I listen to a song and I'm like, okay, I see this as this, you know, and learning how to reference for me is a very important thing because reference track is not necessarily something that sounds the same, but maybe something that has the same feeling that you maybe wanna. That if I'm listening to them one next to another, you feel like they are in the same album. You know, that's the way I think about
Okay.
referencing track. So, for example, if one of my references is I don't know, "Die with a Smile" from Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga, that song has three, four elements. You know, five tops. You know, and maybe you're mixing a song that has seven, eight elements. So at the very beginning, you might think like, no, it's not the same. Wait a minute, what I'm trying to achieve is like if you're listening to that song and then you listen to my song, you think like, oh, they're in the same album. There's just a different thing. So that way helped me a lot to leave the reference not as an ending point, like somewhere there, but not there because there is already occupied by that song. That if you place them one next to another, you're like, yeah, they sound good. You know, so like, oh, this sounds muddy next to this one. You know, that for me helped me a lot.
Yes,
That's the
true.
way I react. Because again, you're not gonna sound the same as them for infinite reasons.
So, Andy, man, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. So, yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
man. Hope to see you soon, man.
Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Andres Quiroga. Hopefully, you found some useful insights, practical techniques, and a better understanding of what it's really like to work as a professional audio engineer. Whether it was a recording, mixing, or mastering tip, or simply a different perspective of the industry, I hope you can take something from this conversation and apply it to your own journey. Thanks for being here. Thanks for connecting with us, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Sound Sessions. Take care, guys.